Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tough Lift Podcast. All right, this is episode 42. We are doing another coaches roundtable, and this time it is all about bringing on the ladies. All right, so I've invited here three women coaches, female types, and we are going to just shoot the shit about a bunch of different topics in the sports world. All right, so these athletes and coaches, because all three of them are combos technically, they have very extensive backgrounds in the sport. And in sporting in general, you'll find out that they're not all weightlifters. They've done weightlifting, but maybe not all weightlifters. But I wanted to bring them on because they all have very cool backgrounds that can help maybe you as an athlete or coach get a different perspective into the strength and conditioning world and their experiences in dealing with things or working through things. So without further ado, you guys know who I am, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But we're going to go ahead and start our intros out. We will start on my screen. To my top here is Miss Tayler Harris out of Heavy Metal Barbell Club in North Carolina. Tayler, if you can give us an intro, I would appreciate it.
Ooh, I need to start. So hi, I'm Tayler Harris. I am a 15-year veteran of weightlifting, but before that I was a CrossFitter and I played D2 soccer for a season before I realized I absolutely hated it. And so I've been doing this for a little bit. As an athlete, I was a Team USA athlete, I guess it's past tense now, 2018, 2019. I'm still competing at the senior level, but I am a master's athlete now, so I am in my older age. And so I'm a world record holder, American record holder for masters, and then I also, I guess, own kind of Heavy Metal Barbell Club out of Charlotte with my husband Sean. He does more of the heavy kind of coaching, but I am on staff and I coach at events and kind of day-to-day help around. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And Tayler, if you could be any type of sandwich, what type of sandwich would you be? Yep, wasn't ready for it. Here we go.
Sandwich.
Yep, sandwich. What type?
That's hard. I don't like this. I don't like being put on the spot. That's really not my favorite thing.
Oh, now that he knows that, he's going to do that.
Actually, I really love a grilled cheese sandwich, but not like your normal like American cheese.
Are you saying you're like a grilled cheese sandwich?
No, I want.
No, it's if you were one.
I would be a grilled cheese sandwich.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next is Valerie Smith out of Notre Dame University. Val, let's hear that intro.
Hey, not very cool over here. I think you made me sound really cool with your intro, but it's just it's me.
The microphone. I just have a nice mic. That's all it is.
Yeah, I don't have a nice one. I'm Val. Let's see here. Went to small Division III school, Adrian College for undergrad in Michigan. I was a nerd and wanted to go get my master's, but I also wanted to be a strength coach. So I've worked with Jim Kilbasso, which he does a lot of speed development, works with youth at the time it was Wixom, Michigan. I can't remember where he is now, but he's great. Finished my master's degree in exercise physiology. Played volleyball in undergrad, wanted to keep playing sports, decided I would go try out for bobsled. Did not make an Olympic team, was not on a World Cup team, was more of like your NAC, which is called North America's Cup, or I would say in the weightlifting world, maybe making it's like regionals, or so you're not on like the full like USA 1, 2, 3, but you're in this like pool of people who is competing, which was awesome. And I met some amazing people. That's also how I met Matt. I found him at a CrossFit gym and I needed to learn how to Olympic weightlift. And so I was like, can you please teach me how to hang clean? Because I have to do it for a combine. After I finished up bobsledding, came home, started working on my PhD, but before that was teaching for a little bit, and flash forward a few years of coaching at Barwis Methods, and I also trained out of there. I finished up my my PhD in exercise physiology, and I started coaching like full time again. So I am one of the Olympic strength and conditioning coaches on staff here. I work with our women's soccer, our throwers, and I help out with whoever needs help with things. So that's a little bit about me. I am no longer competing. I am a mother. I think any coach knows that as you grow more into your craft, sometimes it's actually harder to stay competing in anything, let alone like just find the time to train. So I am happy when I can move a barbell. The other day I did a snatch for the first time, Matt. I thought my shoulder was going to pop out of place, but I still had
Hey,
it. So we're all
this
right.
is every day for me, so that's good.
Yeah, that's every day
That's all
for
right.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
And
probably a
Val,
terrible all over the place intro, but there you go.
no, that's fine.
No, it's
perfect.
very detailed. That's good.
This is probably super stoked because she just heard a bunch of big brain shit, and that's like she loves to overcomplicate, loves the deep dive sciencey shit. She's like, oh
I
my
do.
masters, oh my god, PhD, oh my god, I'm gonna
I
bother
do.
you.
I geek out on that stuff. I love that. I
didn't
love
tell
your
her-
background. I love your
Yeah, I didn't tell her
background.
that you had that background. So
Yeah, that's very cool.
Val, a sidebar here before I ask her sandwich, so you get a little cheat here. Sorry, Taylor. I've had like athletes that were Val students become athletes of mine before, and it's pretty funny when they realize that like I was their professor's coach at one point, and that connect in the dot. So there you
So
go,
awesome.
Tracy, for your line of I know everyone.
Yes, little
And then
finger.
last but not least, my right hand woman at 4-star, Tracy Chase, down here in the bottom.
Hi guys, I'm
Oh, wait,
Tracy.
pause. I'm sorry. Val, sandwich. What type? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, sandwich.
Jesus, I almost ruined the whole fucking episode.
He's got to put you on
You
the
know
spot
what?
too now.
I feel like Taylor, I'm with you. Grilled cheese all the way, especially now
Yeah.
that I have a 2-year-old. Like I'm always eating grilled cheeses. But if I have to be different, I feel like my go-to sandwich, when I was younger, my mom would make us like a grilled turkey sandwich or just a turkey sandwich, but like super basic. Mayo, turkey, like my mom used to put iceberg lettuce on it. That's it. Like
Nice cold
nothing
crisp.
more. And then if you can like grill it or like panini press it, perfect.
So Val's like cool and crisp. Okay. All right.
Nice. I like it. I
All
like
right,
it.
Tracy, now we can do yours. We've completed this.
Hi guys, I'm Tracy. I have been doing weightlifting for about 7 years and coaching with Matt for about 6 of those years. Going on 6.5, 7. I'm kind of losing track. I was in combat sports for years. I started off in Taekwondo and I started doing that at an elite level. So I was a national level athlete in that, and then I made it to team trials, and I fought and trained at the Olympic Training Center. At a certain point after doing that, I didn't like the direction that the sport was headed in. We had transitioned to an electronic scoring system. And even though it was an Olympic sport at the time, and that was my sort of dream at one point, I was like, I'm sort of done with just the direction that the sport was heading in. So I branched off into Muay Thai, and I did that quite seriously. And I lived in Thailand for a while, and I trained over there. It was a very, very cool, very free time in my life. But combat sports were my first love for years. After I got back from Thailand, and I had sustained a number of injuries doing that over the years, and I was like, I wanted to switch gears and get into something a little bit more strength related. So I got into CrossFit, and I did CrossFit for a little bit, and that's how I fell in love with weightlifting, and then really wanted to fix my shit. So that's how I found Matt and 4-star, and started training more seriously, and then got into the coaching aspect of that as well. I have a bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I was a personal trainer for years, so working in combat sports and then personal training and then coaching CrossFit. It was a very fun transition for me getting into coaching weightlifting because I loved just how technical it was. So yeah, that's sort of my background.
All right, and then the question: what sandwich would you be, Tracy?
I would be one of those subs with all the meat in it, like all the salami, all the ham, all the
Like a-
roast beef, just like all like this thick.
I think they're typically called like grinders, aren't they?
Is that what it's called? Grinder?
Well, I think that's what they're called. Val nodded. She nodded. She's,
I think I know what you're talking about, but I love all sandwiches, man. Like as you
Dude,
keep
so do I.
we keep bringing up really good ones. I'm like,
I
yeah,
know.
that one's good too.
I'm not
Yeah,
hungry
okay, good.
actually, so
No,
Yeah, I know.
Amanda says that's like her number one like interview or icebreaker question, but she also hates sandwiches, and I fucking love them. So
Matt, I need to give you another one to use that I think it gets controversial.
yeah,
Is
let's go.
what type of potato would you be?
Oh
And
shit!
like it gets like people are like gnocchi, sweet potato fry. Somebody one time said like the Red Robin like steak fry, and we're like seriously
Oh,
out of all
that's
potatoes you that
intense.
yeah. Anyway,
That's
it gets
intense. Yeah, that's
really intense.
detailed.
So use that for another one.
Yeah. I do them at the seminars and clinics. Tracy watches me do them. Before we get started, I make everyone
Yeah,
say like what
they're
type of
good.
dinosaur they are or some dumb shit.
In fact, the
Um,
last podcast we did, our assistant coach, he said he was a tuna fish sandwich. I was like, really? A tuna fish sandwich? That's gross,
awful,
Richard.
Richard.
Ugh. Yeah.
So yeah, as you guys can see, like pretty extensive backgrounds from our hosts today that we have on the episode. So I wanted to deep dive on a couple topics that I thought they could bring some good input in. As you see, we have athletes and coaches with lots of experience. We have professional, educated experiences. We have time and grade, as we call it in the military, uh, where they've been doing this for a while. They've had their own experiences and or worked with large groups of athletes and actually collecting data points or going through data that's collected by others, or they've lived it. They may have watched their husband deal with it as the head coach of a facility, or watched their head coach go through it of their sports facility. So, with that said, the first topic I wanted to talk to you guys on, I messaged you on, and I think it would be interesting to hear with all your guys' different backgrounds, playing professional sports, playing, well, not playing, but doing competitive sporting, is what do you guys think of like the battle between volume and intensity? All right, this is one of the biggest battles we hear about, especially in weightlifting eccentric stuff. But the combat going between, do I need to train more or train less? Because we look at our old school, and I'm going to stereotype here. We look at our old school mentality of you got to be in the gym 5-6 times a week if you're serious. You got to be training 3 to 4 hours a day if you're serious. This old school 60s, 70s model. And not just us, but the other side of the Iron Curtain too. That was their model too. And yeah, asterisk, there was obviously PEDs involved and all that type of shit on both sides of the curtain. But let's just be clear there. But like when it comes to sports training at a high level and or weightlifting specifically at a high level, are you guys seeing more in your own professional experiences, in your backgrounds, that maybe the shift finally is occurring to where we're looking for maybe a little bit less volume and a higher quality of intensity? Or are we still needing to put more volume in at the lower weights, looking for better movement at lower intensity before we start ramping that up? And with all your guys' different backgrounds, I kind of want to hear your guys' opinions on that.
I think for me, in my experience, it's very athlete dependent, very situation dependent. I think initially when someone's starting out and they're a beginner, they need to be in the gym a lot. They need to be practicing those movements at a very low intensity, right? But they need to be practicing, they need repetition, they need more time actually doing the movements. And then as that athlete gains experience and they get to a certain level of competitiveness, I think that can taper off and they can still be fine.
Actually, yeah. So like the Russians, I think of the Russians like master of sport. There's a certain number of reps they consider for you to be a master of sport, right? And so like I agree. Like when you're a baby lifter, as we call them, you need to be doing like for us specifically, thousands of reps. Same thing with like if you're in a ball sport, you need to be taking thousands of shots on goal or free throws or whatever just to get better and to develop your ball skills or your bar skills. But I do think that there's that nice, maybe I don't know if it's a bell graph or whatever, but if we think about like you need more when you're young, like when you're kind of new to the sport. I think also depending on what your goals are, like if you're trying to be that like world team member Olympian, you do need more, I think, than like say I'd say probably maybe not Val, but I think probably Tracy and like Matt and I, we all kind of experience more like general people who are interested in doing the sport for fun. Yes, they probably want to compete at AO, maybe get to nationals, but they're not trying to become that 1% of 1%, right? They're not trying to be an Olympian. And maybe they are, but like that's a whole other conversation of what they're putting into the sport, not only with the gym and with intensity and volume, but also outside the gym. So,
Val,
Yeah,
what are your experiences?
I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think I was nodding my head the whole time. Actually, me and my husband just had this conversation not too long ago because there's room for both. And I think there's room for both in all areas of sport, like across all of my athletes that I work with. Something that I deal with frequently is like, what are they doing in practice? So, like, what other loads are we having? What other stressors are we having? And how's that going to impact them in the weight room? Or how's that going to impact them on the field with conditioning, right? Because that's the two things exactly like you're talking about, Matt. You're dialing, right? You're trying to dial, volume, intensity, a little bit of both. Where are you mixing it up at? I think my throwers, for example. So I do a lot of Olympic progressions with them, and when they first start off with me, we need a lot of reps, and guess what? We need a building phase, so we're
Yeah.
gonna do it, and we're gonna get better at moving, and you need to get stronger, and their bodies can't handle that type of intensity for long periods of time.
Mhm.
Even staying somewhere between like 80, like 78. 75 to 85%, same thing. They can only stay there for so long, and then we got to bring them back down.
Yep.
My women's soccer athletes, we need to develop them. So there has to be a period of time where I do volume with them. And by volume, I mean volume relative to what else they're doing. So that can be, I think I don't really take them over like, 6 reps on back squat, and I'll do more sets than more reps just for technique and form purposes, right?
Yep.
So I agree. Tracy said it. I think you nailed it, right? It really does depend on the group that you're working with, but I think we need both, and we can't live on these camps of like, oh, you have to do things, and why are you training them like with all, okay, well, you need both, right? Like think about physiology. If you have to develop the muscle to do what you want it to do, which is to get stronger, you probably need a little bit of volume, right? If you're playing a field sport athlete, there may come a time where you don't need as much strength anymore, but it's not a bad idea to go back to that volume, right? Like think of it as a GPP phase, right? Reintroducing things, and then you can start them up quicker. But I hate the people out there right now that are just like on one camp or another. I'm like, you're actually forgetting the science. You're just honing in on what other people are telling you, and you're forgetting about what the athlete actually needs and how to develop them.
And at any level too, like just knowing your athlete and what they can handle is key too. Like I think in terms of the question Matt was asking, he was like, when an athlete gets to a certain point and they're wondering how many days a week do I need to be in the gym? How many hours should I be training each session? Like that's going to be so athlete dependent, and some athletes do really well with volume and progress really well, and then some athletes just break down. So at a certain point in their development, it's like we were talking about quality over quantity. At what point do you decide I'm getting better quality from this format versus just the overall quantity of training, the overall number of hours that athlete is in the gym, beating themselves up? And you take two athletes, like look at Olivia Reeves, who lifts at the level she's at, and she trains 3 days a week. And then you look at Maddie Rogers, who does like multiple 2-a-days, right? Totally different training styles and methodologies, and they're both at very high levels. But I think that's a good example of like knowing your athlete and where they thrive, and at that level, like where they can sort of live and stay and have the best result. But yeah.
So now all three of you are coaches. So respectively to that, you're athletes that are the chronic I need to train more and more and more. Right? Some of you I know really well and would say you're guilty of this yourselves, but we don't need to point fingers. You could self-point. Or in your past, you can point at yourself. But with our athletes that are both male and female that sit there and they are sitting there and they want to be the best, and that's respectful, that's understandable, but they're sitting there telling themselves, well, I need to train 5 times a week. I need to train maybe doubles 3 times a week. How are you at your best shot explaining to them what you just said? Because we know that's true, but how are we also steering the ship as the coach, right? The term coach is we're steering that horse and buggy for them to understand that I'd rather have a conversation about where you need to be, not what you want to do, because what you want to do may not actually be the right choice for you. So I mean, Val, I like more directed to you because you got like 30 fucking girls on a team, right? Like that's a lot of alpha attitude, I feel. And
I
it's
feel
not
like because I
Taylor
come from a
said,
family of 7,
Taylor said, it's not like it's pretty easy to walk into a gym
Mhm.
and kind of know like, okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like everyone in a D1 school is trying to be the biggest, baddest motherfucker. So
Well, I feel like that too. Like you're also like talking. You have to also deal with like coaching staff, right? Because like it's not just you. You're not the only coach on like in that athlete's life. Sorry.
You were a soccer player.
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing to go do when someone told you that you weren't fit?
Wait, also I'm curious as to
yeah.
Why?
And so like that's the. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tracy.
No, I'm sorry. This is kind of unrelated, but I'm curious as to why you said you hated soccer, because you mentioned that you did it for a while, but you said you hated it. So
this is that's a whole other story about like I actually was having a lot of knee pain my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And I actually had overdeveloped my quads because we didn't strength train. So I had no hamstring development. So when I was developing, my quads developed too much, and actually my patella tendon started kind of slipping to the outside of my knee and causing rubbing on my.
Did you have to have a release done?
I had a lateral release done, and it didn't really. So like, it's fine. So like that was soccer. They basically told me I had tendonitis. This is a whole other fucking sidebar, right? Sorry, y'all. I had really bad tendonitis. The coach that I was recruited left the college before I got there. The new coach was kind of just like placating me because he didn't really want me. I was a very physical soccer player. He wanted more of ball skill, which is great. There's a point for everybody, but I was just a physical player. And so I quit. I was at a very small D2 school, like tiny school in North Carolina. I ended up transferring, and then I found CrossFit because I got like 20, 30 pounds heavier in about a semester and a half because I just was like, oh, I can still eat like I'm an athlete. Guess what you can't do? So, but anyways, but no, so this thing you're asking about running in shape. So I actually would try to get in strength conditioning classes in high school because I wanted to get stronger and feel bigger. And I was actually moved every time out of these strength conditioning classes into these like toning classes that were all women. This is in like 2004, 2005, guys. So like, and I was in a very small, like I went to a very rural high school in North Carolina, and they would just kind of, you know, if you guys remember, like you would sign up for what your classes were, like you put the number, and they would just like change it from like a 6 to an 8 because the 8 was like the women's course, and they would just move me to the women's course. And at the time, like I didn't think to cause a fuss about it, right? It's like I'm like, all right, I guess they'd just be like, well, that's a boys' class, you can't be in there.
Oh God.
You know, of course, like 30-year-old Tayler looks back and goes, fuck you guys, that was super
Yeah.
sexist. And of course, you had coaches back then too, like, don't get too big. We don't want you getting too muscular. You're going to get slow. And now knowing what I know about like fiber types, that was never going to happen for me. It actually would have been better if I had been developing more hamstring and leg strength because you protect your ACLs, your MCLs, you're not getting as many concussions because your neck's not a fucking fragile little thing. Anyway, sorry, that's a whole other, but that's a whole thing that I love hearing that like soccer coaches are putting and like they're giving you their girls and like, please make them lift. That makes me so happy to hear.
Well, they're finally understanding the physiology behind it, which is stupid that it's come so late. The physiology behind like athletes who actually train their lower body and do strength training, like the reduced risk of injury with those athletes is just huge. The fact that they were operating under an erroneous assumption for so long is just mind-boggling with that.
Yeah, the thing the reason I asked Tayler about it was I feel like, yeah, Matt, we have athletes that the NCAA put some constraints on it. So like, as you guys know, right, like there's only so many hours that I am allowed to touch point with them in a team setting. There's only so many things that we can make mandatory. So you're right. Like, I'm not going to have a kid that like I have to write a 6-day a week program for because it's not going to happen because of two reasons. One, they aren't allowed to do that. They don't have the time to do it either. At Notre Dame, they go to class. They have other things outside of just their sport that they have to excel in. And then two, they also have practice. And so I'm not being a good coach if I have them come into the weight room whenever, do a lift or, you know, do a run with me and then send them out to training because I have to protect them as much as I can from themselves too. So the way that I go about it in our setting is if we have athletes that need a little bit more work in certain areas, we may have a conversation and set up a plan for them, and we'll explain what that plan looks like, the reasons for why it's good for them to have off days, why it is good for them to moderate how they're training and what they're doing. And this is in facets of both strength and conditioning. So it just depends on what they need. One way that we really do try to monitor, though, like how they are fatiguing and if they're responding well to the training is just by recovery-based scores. So asking them how they're doing, right? So more of like a session RPE, but more of a wellness session RPE.
Yeah.
So, hey, how you feeling? 10 being great, 0 being crappy, where you at, right? Like with everything. And then we do a lot of counter movement jumps to look to see what their readiness score is. If we can get it done pre-training, great. If not, we'll get it done when they come into the weight room. And so that's another way, one, for us to see how they're fatiguing neuromuscularly, but also if they aren't adapting to the program the way that I need them to adapt. So can we pull back a little bit? Do we need to take more on? And a lot of times when we have those situations where we may need to pull back, a lot of times it's just because of outside stress. Sometimes it's not even
Yep.
like
I
sport
think we all
related,
could
right?
say amen on
Like
that one.
Matt, how many times have you walked me off a
Yes.
bridge when I came in and I'm like, I can't train, like I've got all this stuff going on, and you're like, okay, you need to calm down. But we all program, and it's this beautiful, right, like textbook perfect way to get stronger, and then life happens and they can't focus the way they need to, or they forgot to eat, or they didn't sleep for 3 days. And so I feel like that is like more or less what I'm battling, right? Is like how to educate them on doing some of those things that are outside of the 1 hour that I get with them, or, you know, 2 hours, whatever it is. And then come back, let's restart, let's get a plan. But on the athletes that I need to do that with, like usually we'll sit down with coaching staff and them and kind of go over that plan. But they have to be bought into it, because if not, they'll go do it on their own. They'll go find a way to get it done. So they have to understand and buy into either pulling back, giving them other things to do. I find like recovery sessions are really helpful in times that people like to do more. Like, hey, you can come in here and get a little bike workout in, get a recovery in, be done, right? Like get out, go do a little extra core. That's kind of how I battle it. I don't know if it's the right way, but that's what I find
No,
is most
I like
effective.
that you said that, because I think, and I mean the girls, they can answer, but like I think that's one of the areas where like I've been really open about in the weightlifting world, especially as like I kind of consider myself like middle ground male. I'm not one of like the OGs, like 40, 50-year olds that's just doing the old school shit, but I'm also not one of like the 20, 30-year olds. I'm like right in the middle where I was raised by the OGs, but I'm on the interwebs and shit like that, being aggressive with like new theories. And I've been very open my whole weightlifting career. And since I coached you with like, okay, maybe today, like we just scratch the whole training plan and we fucking do something else where we can at least say we moved, and like we'll just pick it up again tomorrow. And like sometimes like Tracy's my athlete, like sometimes like I say that, and like yeah, she's the athlete, she wants to follow the plan because the plan is like the roadmap, and there's friction there every now and then. But like long-term development wise, I think that is, I agree with that type of shit so much nowadays, of just like get them to get relaxed with the concept of like the map. Like you can step off the path a little bit and then get right back the fuck on it. It's not like it's not a crevasse you're gonna fall in forever. So yeah, I was curious with like such a big population how you manage the alphas and stuff like that, and just kind of keeping them, because athletes want to train, they want to get to be the
Yeah.
best, they want to get to one of my favorite quotes is from that coaching series on Netflix. If you guys haven't watched it, Tracy's heard me talk about it a million times, but it's Coach's Playbook on Netflix. I highly recommend it. Uh,
Phenomenal. Yeah, it's really good.
and one of the, I always forget her name, but she's a very well known female basketball coach. She said she's talking about out like high level athletes and their team won the championship and stuff like that, and it's like getting high level athletes to understand like you have to come down from the mountaintop every now and then. Like you can't train at that intensity, you can't be at that intensity all the time. There's no air to breathe at the top of a mountain. You have to come down, and that sometimes needs to get reminded to like top level elite or high intensity level athletes. And that really
Mhm.
is like the balance between intensity and volume. So with that, like you guys all having this weightlifting experience or sport training experience or coaching experience, like what is weightlifting or weightlifting coaching or just sports coaching like taught you guys individually? Like as adults now, right? Because you're athletes, you're younger, we're all naive in our 20s, right? Now that we're adults, what can we comfortably say that weightlifting has like taught you? Because I know for me, real quick to open that up, like I was a not in shape skater and BMXer kind of chub kid before I joined the army. And even when I went in the army, I was like just army physical shape. And then when I started weightlifting, that's when like a whole world opened up to me. I was doing CrossFit with that. You guys all know my backstory, but like for those that are listening, like I didn't do physical stuff. I didn't do training, shit like that. But when I found weightlifting, weightlifting was like this perfect world where like I knew it wasn't just a battle of like who had the better engine, so to say. And in the army, like your engine's everything. But we added this new variable where like, damn, you have to like skill set it. It is a lot of skill focus. And people that want to not be focused on the skill aspect of it, they will not succeed. And I found that really attractive to me because I had always been somebody that was like, if I'm going to do something, I need to deep dive onto it. I needed to commit to it and just really focus on it. And it was an area where like I felt comfortable. I never felt comfortable being in shape or fitness or health or sports or any shit like that. And it was an area where like I was able to sit there and be like, damn, okay, I can fucking like go hard into this, hard into the paint. And I was really successful with it. And it taught me that I could push my body finally for the first time really ever further than I ever knew, being like a little out of shape BMX kid. Like I got tired, but I had never fucking mentally pushed myself like I did trying to reach for these new numbers and use weightlifting to train for the schools and stuff that I wanted. And it really helped me ascertain that level of mental and physical fortitude that I needed for those mental schools, basically. Because the schools are mental. They're physical, but they really are mental. And since then, it's just really reminded me like to have faith in yourself. Because I mean, again, Tracy sees my dumb ass. I won't train for 2 weeks, and I'll fucking load up 90% in my tennis shoes and do it. And it's like it's just a reminder that like do it right, do it correct, have the right things in line, and you're gonna have probably a decent time doing it. And so like, what has it taught you guys? Like whether it be physical, school, education wise, teaching, training,
Talking about from the mindset of an athlete or the mindset of a coach?
from either. Like it can
Okay.
be either. Like
Yeah.
what has weightlifting taught you?
Um, for me personally, it's just been a lot of patience and keeping my mind open to different methodologies, continuing to try and grow and expand and be less like rigid towards one side or the other, because in the world of combat sports, it was a lot more simple, a lot more streamlined for me mentally, and I felt like I was very rigid as a coach and an athlete in what I believed was right and wrong and how I interacted with people, how I coached, how I trained. And when I got into weightlifting, and especially from working with Matt, obviously this has helped quite a bit. Just trying to expand my range more and be more in the middle. Like even if an idea or a coaching strategy or a training methodology or a cue doesn't initially click or make sense, it's like, we'll try it out, play with it. There's so many ways that you can work on improving, and it's not just black or white. If you're open to trying different things, you can really expand more as a coach and as an athlete, instead of being so rigid in your mindset. And before, as both an athlete and a coach, I was very rigid. Everything was just black and white. This is right. This is how you do it. This is wrong. So I would say it's taught me a lot of that and a lot of patience.
Awesome, thank you. Any?
I was like, Val, you want?
Either or? You want to flip a coin? Is
Honestly,
there
I was going to say patience, so I'm like waiting to see what else is going to come
is
to
there
me.
a virtual
I mean, I
coin
could
toss?
like,
Yeah.
so mine was, I mean, like, I don't want to say there's like a one topic thing, like a one.
I mean, it could be a multitude of things. I
Well,
don't care.
for me, it was like, and this sounds super maybe rah, but like, I think I fought my body as a long time as an athlete because I was playing the wrong sports, to be honest. Like I shouldn't have played soccer. I should have been a thrower. I should have been a volleyball player, something like that. Because I have long arms, long legs, and a small torso, and I'm big. And like soccer was not what I should have done. And I fought that for so long. And so I also went through the CrossFit funnel of like, got back into shape because like I mentioned earlier, like I got a little chubby, found CrossFit, got less chubby, then was like, oh, you know what's really fun? Being strong. And so like finding weightlifting and realizing that like, while I'm not, let's see, Maddie Rogers or Olivia Reeves or Jordan Dela Cruz, I have done a lot, and like it's cool to see what my body can do and see how far I can push it. Especially, so I just turned 37, and being like, fuck yeah, I can keep doing this and keep pushing this, and like feeling comfortable in my own skin. Probably happened somewhere in my like late 20s. Like I wouldn't wear shorts because I thought my legs were too big. Like I would wear shorts to practice, but like I would never put on like a pair of shorts to go to the grocery store or something. So like finding that comfort, and that's what weightlifting taught me. And that's why I wanted to become a coach, because I wanted other women to find that same like confidence and that same like comfort in their own bodies, whatever that meant to them, because with it being a weight class sport, it's for everyone. And it's not just like you have to kind of fit this generic mold of what should be good at the sport. It's like, well, you can be 45 kilos, you can be 145 kilos, anything in between there. And like we can just, as long as you are willing to put in the work and the time and try hard, you can do this sport. And that to me was really beautiful. And that sounds maybe kind of lame, but like it is really beautiful to me.
I can really resonate with that, because I spent my whole career in a sport that was just conditioning based. It was how light can you be, how fast you can be, how long can you go, basically. And I cut for years to be in a weight class that was so unnaturally light for me. And the best way to describe it is I felt quick, like lightning fast, like I could go for days, but I felt hollow inside. There was no strength, there was no power. I was burning the candle at both ends constantly. And one of the things that I fell in love with about weightlifting was like, you know what? I'm sick of this shit. I want to be strong. I want to be powerful. I want to be a force to be reckoned with. Like I don't want to feel like I'm just constantly burning everything, and I want to just be powerful and strong. So that's one of the reasons I really resonate with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I echo what you guys said. I do think that the sport taught me patience, because it usually doesn't come quick. Like it's something that you really have to work on and you have to hit positions correctly, as y'all know. And then I agree with you, Taylor, like the the joy and the different types of training and like finding what works for you. Like that's what I was thinking about is like there's a space for everybody in this sport, no matter what. But just to give something different, I do think it taught me a lot about discipline too. So when I met Matt, I was so focused on bobsled. And I'm like, okay, if I can hang clean like this weight, I'm gonna score this many points in the combine, which then my sprint number can be this. But if it, and I was so like laser focused on like that side of it. And then I remember Matt like messaged me when he opened up 4 Star and was like, hey, when you're done, like let me know because I think that you'd be a fun, I think you really enjoy the sport of weightlifting, but you probably need to like hang up the bobsled cleats and stay here and train. And there's something about now that I'm a mom and I don't have as much time to train and I'm coaching full time is that there's just something about that discipline side that I miss and love and being a little bit selfish towards like these goals that you have. But when I was in the weightlifting and bobsled days, like I loved that. Like I loved waking up and having like this for breakfast and going into the gym and training for a certain period of time and yeah, crushing the pre-workout that I wanted. And now I get to
We were
train
talking
athletes.
about that
We
before
were
the
talking
podcast.
about that earlier. But now I get to teach my kids to do that, right? Like I tell them to cherish these moments. Like you only have 4, 5, maybe depending on the sport you're in to really play and compete. And then there's only going to be a small percentage of you that goes on and keeps doing that sport. So cherish it, love the grind, love what you're in, because when you're done, then there's going to be a new door opening of different opportunities. And I think back to those times when I was like, I do miss like rolling up at 4 Star and crying to you, Matt, about something ridiculous. And eating something on the way in and like Bob looking at me like I'm crazy when I'm trying to like hold
I'm
something
looking
and
at
he's like,
everyone like they're crazy. So don't feel
yeah. So there is a piece of that I do miss, but on the days that are hard and I'm feeling sorry for myself, I'm like, oh, you didn't put the work in. Don't complain about it. Like you have let yourself not work out. You need to make time for it. So I know that's probably like the crazy coach side in me, but I do miss those days.
No, I mean, I think all of us have that conversation with people probably every day. You want to probably perform, you should probably put in the work. So
Yep.
set your standards. But no, I think weightlifting, I think that's one of the reasons it's growing too as an individual sport is because it's allowing, and like especially just to address like the elephant in the room, like weightlifting on the female side of the house is one of the fastest growing, and Taylor probably actually has the statistics because of her position on the board and stuff. But like it is, if I remember correctly, it still is the fastest growing female sport for the Olympic committee side for like the US. So it's right. Are we still?
I think so. Well, like it's funny because not I don't know the exact numbers, but like I was watching an old muscle driver video the other day that popped up, and it was like James Tatum talking about how a 200 kilo total for a woman was insane. This is
Mind-boggling.
2015, 10 years ago. Holy shit! If you can do a 200 total, oh my god, you're going to be amazing.
Yeah.
That ain't shit now.
Yep.
That ain't shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
we're
have
all
to have
looking
like
at
a.
like.
We're talking like you have to have a 200 kilo total as like a 50 something,
Mhm.
like whatever. Like it, and like your 76 numbers are like 240.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking awesome. So like to be a part of weightlifting in the like what is this like the real surge of
Yeah.
women's weightlifting, it's really awesome. Like it sucks because if you want to be good,
You gotta work.
Now it sucks, yeah.
you're gonna get bent over because like you're going to get and like there's nowhere to go either. So Val, I don't know if you know, they took our weight classes, they're redoing them in June. It kicks in, so we're now
They
going from
just
10
every
to 8.
year they just redo them.
Oh, yeah.
I was in a
I
weight
have
class.
opinions.
I was like 96 kilo, and then they got rid of that, or 94, or whatever it
90.
was.
90.
Okay,
I competed
see,
in the 90 class
whatever.
once. It was fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it was great. I won a state championship. I felt like I
Yep.
was cool, and
Yeah.
then they took it away, and then I was like,
Yeah,
whatever.
you
I'm starting.
Val and Coop, because remember I
Me and
snuck Coop.
Caitlin.
I snuck
And
Coop by drinking like a gallon of water into the 90s. And Taylor.
So Coop and
That-
I actually competed against each
Yep.
other, both of us barely weighing like 76 kilos because
Yep.
we both were like, the 75s at the time were just stacked. And I think both you and Sean looked at the start list and was like, y'all should go 90. It's much better.
Yeah.
It
And
was like
Taylor,
us
that's how
against
she
Marissa.
qualified. That's how she
Marissa-
qualified for Pan Am Juniors. We just
I've
Yeah.
been a 69, a 71, a 75, a 76, a 90. The new class is 77. But yeah, so like my point is like weightlifting in the US is getting super hard, and you've just got to like, you're going to have to do it. And it's really awesome to be a woman in the sport because, like if you watch, it's actually, I made a note of myself. I was like, I want to talk about social pressures because I think that's part of like you guys talking about the 5 and 6 days a week.
We're going there
Because
next. So
sorry if I'm jumping you, but like to me, it's like we're talking about women's weightlifting because you know that every day that you are not doing better, someone is doing something better that they're putting online. And while you don't, so there's a lot of pressure on yourself to do better and to be better in the sport of America because not only do you know people are performing better, but they're then putting their highlight reels up. So when you have a bad day, you feel shit on, even though you shouldn't feel that way because it's fucking cyclical and you're going to have bad days because it's just a part of training.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of baby lifters don't think about the fact, and I say babies, I don't mean that like condescendingly. I mean like the newbies.
Athletic age.
Yeah. They have less than 4 years in the sport, right? 4 or 5 years. They are just now hitting their first wall of it's been a year since I've PR'd. Oh God. Fucking cry me a fucking river.
Tracy PR'd her snatch today, guys.
I'm so proud.
Congrats.
Long time coming.
How long has it been? How long has it been, Tracy?
Okay, well, it has been a year, oddly enough.
Yeah, ironically, yeah.
Ironically.
It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
my
I know.
point is
I'm
like,
about to be there for sure.
like, and it's fine. Like, this is not about me. It's about athletes in general. Like, I think that women's weightlifting is becoming so competitive that it is becoming a lot more. Let me make sure I put up my best on the internet so that or there are people that are not putting their best out because they want to try to keep that shit under wraps. So I also think it's kind of shady. Like, who gives a shit? Like, if I snatch 102 in training, I'm sure as shit putting it on the internet. I'm not gonna like try and keep that to myself.
I mean, me and you have been in the sport long enough to where we've known multiple coaches that do that strategy, and then it shits on them. They keep their athlete hidden, and then their athlete just shits the bed out of meat. So it doesn't matter. You can hide things, and then like
pops at a drug test.
Yeah, you got to do it on a platform at the end of the day. So whatever, hide it. I don't care.
There's a couple of things I try to stir out there. Sorry, but that's kind of.
No, you're good. But
well, we were just having this conversation with an athlete the other day because they're basically shitting the bed mentally going into the Arnold, and they were talking about watching all these other athletes and teammates like post their PRs and their meet prep, and they're all doing great supposedly because it's what they see on Instagram. So it's making them feel all insecure and not confident in their training because they're seeing all this stuff online and they're comparing themselves to it. It's like I'm sorry, but these athletes aren't posting their bad days. They're having good days and bad days just like you. But it was so much so feeding into this athlete's confidence level that it was just like, I was like, stay off social media. Don't watch people's reels right now. If it's making you feel self-conscious or like, you're getting all these anxiety about your bad training days, like everyone is having them, and what you're seeing on Instagram it's the good stuff right now. But everyone's still having bad days. You're just not taking note of that. You're not seeing it.
And I want to have my bad days leading into it. If I don't have a couple of bad days in my prep, I'm like, oh shit, it's too perfect. Something's gonna.
When am I gonna get the itis?
It's gonna hit me the week of the meet, or it's gonna hit me on game day. I want to know that like I've had a few misses, and I've had like, and especially the week of. If I don't feel good, I'm like, yes, perfect. If I feel great, I'm like, Sean, we did something wrong. What the fuck did we not? We didn't do something right. My husband, again, Val, my husband. So Sean is my husband, and he also coaches me. It's a very interesting relationship. There's a whole thing that we talked about one time because it's not something I tell people to ever do. But I'll be like, Sean, I think we're doing something wrong. And he's like, I need you to shut the fuck up. We've done the same prep for 10 years. And you've always...
For all intensive protective purposes, Sean says with respect.
With respect, honey.
Because the great Piros Dimas said, as a coach, you can say anything as long as you say with respect at the end. And you're fine.
I feel like the marriage thing kind of voids any kind of coaching relationship. It's just like...
That may be true.
They go to safe stores like they're married. That's not our problem.
Well, Val and her husband work for a professional environment. I'm sure they're at each other's throats at times over stupid shit like the weight room and times at the weight room and shit like that. Let my fucking girls in. Get the fuck out.
You ate my snack. Why did you eat my food?
Yeah.
Oh, You
I
drank
love
my
it.
Have you and
pre-workout.
Dad ever tipped at work, Val? Over like strength and
Honestly,
conditioning?
I never see him.
Wow.
We mostly it's like at work I feel like we're always so busy and he works football, so they're like their own beast.
Yeah,
So
so those of you
he's
guys that don't know, Val's husband is the strength and conditioning coach for Notre Dame's football. So like
Um,
I want to know if like Val rolls in there and just
yeah.
you this
it's a
I
different strength room, right? I
alpha,
assume it's a
well,
totally
dude,
different room.
this like
no, we all
ultra
share the same
alpha
space.
football environment, and
Oh,
Val just like
Our
walks in and
offices
just
are
like
next to each other. It's like
because like
Fred
we
and
went
then
to
me.
FSU once, and FSU has a whole separate building for their football team,
Oh
which is
yeah.
crazy.
They are currently
yeah,
building
building
one
a new
right now
facility.
for football.
Okay.
But like the whole time that we've been here, this is going on year 5. Isn't that crazy, Matt? Like we
That
left
is, you
5 years
guys, yeah,
ago. But they're building football facility right now, which will have like an all athlete dining hall in it. So it will be a little bit of all athletes, but all of the football operations will be in there, and then we'll have our weight room. But weight room wise, no, we have had tips on like different programming styles or like what his thoughts are and what my thoughts are on things, or if I'm second guessing something or
yeah,
like, but mostly
Huh?
like at home, like not at work. I feel like at work we're like, who's getting Georgia?
yeah.
And then like who's got, you know what I mean?
That is
Like
the most
what's for
Good
politically
dinner?
safe
Like,
mascot.
way to
yeah,
do it.
like, and then it's like high five and one's running this way, one's running this way, and we'll reconvene at home at like 8 p.m.
Yeah,
So, but like, I have a question because, like, with weightlifting, social media is such a big part of it because people are trying to get sponsors and like trying to like kind of show each other up. Is that a thing in the collegiate world, or is that not from like an athlete to athlete standpoint versus? I don't remember. Of course, again, I'm an ancient dinosaur, and we did not have as much social media when I was playing in team sports, but we never like sought out other athletes to know. We just knew, okay, we're playing X team this weekend. F them. We know they have a really good defense, so we've got to like do this thing.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I feel like and the reason I say that is because you're right. I don't follow all these other teams and whatnot. And part of it is because, yeah, I grew up in the era like in college sports where like I didn't have social media. Like Instagram came like after I graduated.
yeah,
So, I think the biggest thing from their strength coach point of view is that I have a group of other female strength coaches that like for women's soccer, for example, we have a little group chat. We'll throw things in there like different ideas if someone's doing something different just to have like a voice or a sounding board to go off of. And so I'll follow those coaches, and then sometimes those coaches on like beep test day, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they did this and it has nothing to do with our team, like nothing. And I'll get a little panicky about it, but I don't think our girls do as much. um I was going to say though, in the sport of weightlifting, I feel like weightlifting is like you used to play a team sport for most of them. Like at some point in high school, maybe you played basketball or you played volleyball or you played soccer, or maybe you were in an individual sport. But like I think the hardest part about shifting to weightlifting, or at least it was for me, is like you're by yourself. Like you have no teammate. Like it's you versus you. And I ran track for a little while, but it was like not competitive. But if you're like a competitor, like it's really hard, in my opinion, to go from a team sport where it takes all these things working to like be successful. And you're like one little piece of it to where now like you're the whole thing and you've got to like go on the platform. I just remember the first time I ever did it, like Matt had to like, he was like behind me. And the only way I went out there was because like Bob was staring at me. And I was like, okay, I have to go do this. Like, I have to go do this. Like, I just did it the other day. Like, I can do it. Right. And it was really intimidating. And so I wonder, Tracy and Taylor and Matt, like when you guys are training some of these kids, it's like the mental struggles they're dealing with is because part of it is like they're not used to being by themselves. Like they're used to training with a team. And in training, it is like a team. Like when
yeah.
you go into the gym, it's great and it's fun and like you're videoing people and Rachel's yelling at somebody and it's awesome. And then you then on game day, it's you. Like it is all you. And if you don't prep that, I think now looking back in training, like really lock in and focus on like maybe some of your bigger PBs or what that process is going to look like, it is terrifying when you have to go do it on the platform. At least
Yep.
that was my perspective of it.
No, I like, and Tracy's heard me have this kind of because we've had this conversation before. There's definitely an interesting perspective you learn coaching over years when you coach and you see athletes come from team sport and individual sport. And when you see athletes coming from team sports or coming from the individual sports like track and field or tennis or whatever, and how they deal with adversity
Yeah.
and what excuses they make that's what's very interesting. And Tayler, I'm
Yeah.
sure you see it being a coach over there, but like you see how they deal with them and different athletes and team sports. Like, and I didn't play that much. I didn't play any sport really. Like I did I BMX, I skated, whatever. But like then I went to the army where it was like you're a fucking team and everyone just dies and suffers on their own when you fuck, not literally, but like if you fuck up in training, like everyone
I
gets
mean,
fucked
maybe
up.
literally.
Yeah,
But
well, we don't need to go
Yeah,
that dark.
maybe.
But
sorry,
like,
darkness,
yeah,
my
but like
bad.
everyone gets fucked up if you screw up like a shoot house scenario or something like that. It doesn't matter if you did it perfect on your end. But like there's been a lot of instances where like I've noticed that like, and I'm not dogging on team sport athletes, so don't take it that way, but like team sport athletes tend to like kind of gravitate towards like making excuses of like outside variables versus like individual athletes, like your track athletes, your fucking throwers, those people, they will sit there and unfortunately gymnasts, fuck, like they will sit there and just
Yeah.
fucking destroy themselves mentally.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a piece of
Literally.
shit. I suck. It's like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
But the team sport person will be like, it's because the fucking equipment. It's because the bar. It's because of this. It's because I didn't sleep. I had fucking cereal instead of oatmeal. Like Jesus fuck, dude. Like your excuses are asinine. Listen, like I get that you had like two other defensemen to blame why the team fucking scored a goal on you. Sure, you can get away with that here, but it is you, the bar, and gravity here. So what's your fucking excuse? And
So
I've also
sorry, Tracy, go.
I've also noticed a big difference in how the team sport athletes handle anxiety. And I should say they're very, very codependent on us as coaches versus like our individual sport athletes just as a whole. In general, you give them a directive, they will run through a brick wall. When anxiety or whatever hits, they just internalize it and they handle it differently. But our team sport athletes, and again, I'm generalizing, they tend to get a lot more anxious in certain situations, like you described about the meet, Val. And then they're very much looking to coach, very much dependent on us for every little direction and pick me up as possible in those moments, even more so than our athletes that were only playing individual sports and not team sports. And I never played team sports, so I can't relate to that very much, but I have definitely noticed that difference in our athletes.
So it's interesting is we kind of have a different Sean and I've had this conversation a little different, and it's not necessarily individual versus team. We notice that if people have played sports, they are willing to do the hard thing in general. Because we have athletes that have never played a sport before of any kind, and they don't understand how to find that sixth gear or to dig that deeper, like dig a little deeper and push a little harder. And so that's what we've noticed is like a lot of so like we have, I don't want to say elite, but the people who are like trying to do this at a higher level, we like kind of train together. And half of them are athletes who came from like lacrosse, softball, baseball. Myself was like soccer background, whatever. And and I'll say me, like we're willing to put our heads down and do the hard shit. We're like, when something gets hard, we notice that the excuses come out of the people who don't necessarily have ever played a sport. And also they don't, now while training as a team, like while the sport is individual as a competitor, training as a team, and they don't understand like the hate, I don't want to call it hazing, that's the wrong word, but the ribbing of each other to make each other get through the hard times. They, instead of like being like, yeah, I am being a little bit of a bitch, they're like, fuck you, like I don't want to do that, like you're being mean. And I'm like, I'm not being mean, I'm telling you that you did this for 10, that 5 should not be that hard, so buck up and do it, chump. So like, because you are being the weak link right now. So like they don't.
I love that.
Like listen, I'm the old lady on the team that like I'm the red shirt senior, they call me. Like that I was.
You're the super senior.
I'm the super senior. That's what Elena, one of my teammates, calls me. She's like, you're like the super senior who won't graduate. You just keep coming back, and you just will not. You refuse. Or like Sean calls me Roy Kent. Like I'm a Roy Kent on the team. He's like, you refuse to give up and you just keep talking shit to everybody and then you just pull shit out of your ass.
I would say
I resonate with that
really
so much.
Good comparison for you to be Roy Kent. That's amazing.
So my point is though, I think that we've seen a little bit different. Like we don't have that many individual athletes. I'd be interested to like kind of start maybe keeping track of just mentally of who it is, like within like interacting with athletes. So
I have a question for you, Tayler, just because obviously you and Sean both coach and he's your coach and you guys interact with each other. Some of the stuff you were saying about like your interactions as like coworkers, but also husband and wife, but also coach and athlete. Like I've run into the same shit with Matt, and obviously we're not married, but like I'm his athlete and I'm his cohort. But um, in terms of how you handle when an athlete has just like a mental moment, an emotional moment, a breakdown during training, do you feel like you or Sean are better empathetically working with that athlete? Like maybe diving down into the emotional side of things and sort of feeling them out and getting them to a better headspace. Like who do you feel like does a better job of that?
Probably Sean. I'm actually
Ah,
the
see, I knew I
I'm
already
not.
had the answer in my head because he's way better at that shit and I am terrible. I want to sit there and be like, get your shit together, and I don't have a lot of fucking patience for it. And he's like, he'll sit there and he'll be like so understanding and sweet and empathetic. And I'm like, I need to get on that level, but I just don't enjoy it.
I'd like to say I'm probably like a love child between Tayler and Sean's mentalities.
I'm a little
Like
tough love.
50-50. Me and Tayler like
Yeah.
connect on a lot of like outside weightlifting world level things. And then me
Yeah.
and Sean on the weightlifting world connect on a lot of certain.
Listen, Sean's very like smart and like like he's a career coach. Like he's talked to Matt about this before, like how it's like weightlifting used to be this thing like you had a full-time job and it's what you did part-time. And my husband has completely like been part of this generation of coaches who have now made it their career and they're making and he loves it. And I am more of a part-time coach, especially like when you train with a team. So my husband then also coaches Team USA athletes, so he leaves a lot. He's gone for weeks at a time. So like it ends up being on kind of this group of girls or women that train together to kind of coach each other in this atmosphere. So I end up kind of being that emotional coach, and I'm not great at it, Tracy. I'm not good at all. But like we had like a last nationals, we actually had one of our girls. It was her last youth meet, and she missed her like I for some reason like I was like we're warming up and she's like super connected with me every time I'm talking to her, like she's like zoned in, right? Sean's like, all right coach, this is on you, like she has found you today and this is who she needs to get through this. So like he was like, I'll run numbers, you do this. And I'll tell you something, I was emotionally drained because like I wanted
Yes.
Ansley to do so well and like I did, and like I was pouring myself into this athlete for 2 hours, and then
Mm-hmm.
she clarked her last clean, which was going to be like a 7 kilo PR, like because like she wanted to make a team. So you can, but and like she is distraught, and so I'm trying to like and I'm distraught with her, and just the exhaustion I felt afterwards was like I don't know how y'all do it every day. Like
Yeah, it
legitimately,
is.
I don't know. I just was like, I need to go nap and like have a beer and not talk to anybody for 6 days.
Yes, yes. And he jokes at me for like, oh, whenever you leave here, I can't get a hold of you because it's like you throw your phone at a wall and don't look at it. And it's like, yeah, because I don't want to hear from anyone for a
I
while
do throw my phone.
while I mentally unwind. But also with my background, like combat sports was a very male dominated world. So I'm working with male athletes. I have male training partners. I have male coaches. And just in that world, like you don't display a lot of emotion. You don't let your emotion control you. You don't cry on the fucking mat. So it was just this whole different mindset in terms of the athletes I worked with, the coaching that I had, the mindset in general. So when I got into, and personal training was different, obviously, because you're just working with clients, you're not working with athletes. But when I got into CrossFit and competitive CrossFitters and then weightlifters, there was this whole new Pandora's box that was open for me of basically dealing with people's mental states and their emotions and having to be tactful and empathetic and I don't want to say coddle people in a way, but you sort of have to. You have to learn how to work with them, and especially this generation. What is it? Gen Z? Is it Gen Z? I don't even freaking
Yeah.
know. But they're even worse with that. So I'm learning. I feel like I'm learning and growing, but I'm still not as good as he is with that yet. Like he's gone through it all, and he actually is a very empathetic person and always seems to find the right words. He comes off as loud and abrasive, but he is actually very like he'll sit and actually listen and not respond, and then he gives very good advice and he's very good at dealing with people's emotions in the moment, and whereas me, I'm just it annoys the shit out of me sometimes
That's
because I
Well, Val, was he like this before he had kids though? Like that's a theory now. Was he
you know
like
what?
this before?
I've seen him evolve as well. When I first met him, I feel like he wasn't this good at it, but I've watched him evolve over the years and he's watched me evolve over the years. So, yeah, I feel like it's something he's improved on a lot recently as well.
Val, she asked you. I would say I was apathetic.
But at this level, I'm saying
I like how she was like,
Yeah.
It's okay.
I feel like
You can roast him. We
okay,
love to
so
roast him.
Are we switching to
super
our everyone
well,
roast Matt section? But
I'm an empathetic coach and I wear my heart on my sleeve and I felt like Matt, he's a great coach to know like when you walk in the gym where you're at, right? Like and sometimes it's like get your sack, come on, let's go, let's move. Matt, you're really good at being able to read people. Like and I think you've always been
Mm-hmm.
a good coach for that. Like that's one of the reasons why I love training with you because I always felt like I didn't really have to tell you what was going on. You knew. Like you just
Mm-hmm.
knew from like a warm-up set or how the warm-up went or how I was acting. Like you pick up on, and that's what makes great coaches. Like when you know your athletes
Mm-hmm.
and you know they're having an off day, it's okay. But like figure it out, wipe it off, and then the days where you need to have the toughness, you can pull it out if you need to. I think all of us probably could, right? Like you got a little bit of both, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I have always known you never to be like a jerk ever, like not a chance.
I mean, I've been a
Always,
jerk at certain points. Like no, like
yeah, but not to
I'm not
me.
gonna sit there and say I haven't been. Like that's
No, but you haven't to me. Like someone who's just been, I've never worked for you, right? Like I've worked for other coaches around you.
yeah,
I've never worked in your gym. I've never worked just as an Olympic weightlifting coach. I've mostly been like quote unquote in the sport performance, personal training, like
yeah.
team setting, right? You're really good at what you do. I don't know. No, I don't think it was
I
after Oakley.
appreciate it.
Actually, I think I actually never really I didn't work with Matt as much after he had a baby. So
No,
right? Because
Okay.
when
no.
was Oakland? When was he born?
2020, his birthday is in like 3
Oh
weeks
yeah,
now.
yep,
So you
yep.
must have moved right before that, right?
Because
Yeah.
we moved in 21, but then everything was like shut down in Michigan. So when I started my PhD in 20 like 17, 18, so I would just do like drop-ins. Like I didn't
You
train.
worked for Amanda in the Huts, and then like literally
Yeah,
9 months later you
that
were
was like
gone.
the best. I told her that the other day. I was like, that was the best Christmas ever. Was when I worked in those huts because I just got to sit
Val was
there. It was
swinging for my
magical.
wife's business, so
I love Amanda. She's
Cool.
the best.
like the patience is developed, and like that's the thing is I think to be a coach, the patience is developed, but there's a lot of coaches that I think they don't want to fucking care about the patience part of it, and that is an aspect to coaching, and
Mhm.
that whole teaching element. Like we keep calling it coaching, but like I didn't know I was going to be a fucking coach. I didn't know I was going to be a coach till I was at like the threshold of circa 2008 when I was like, all right, you got fucking 2 years left in the army, dude. Like, what are you doing when you get out? It's either you go and you make it through SF school or you're getting the fuck out. Those are the two choices in the road. And I knew I was not going to survive in corporate. So I needed to figure out what I was doing. And I was obsessed with the whole CrossFit weightlifting thing. So that was like the next best thing if I didn't make it. But I had been again in the military, like I was in charge of fire team, I was in charge of a squad, like I'd been working with my guys. I just enjoyed seeing my people develop. And I knew if I developed them and I met them like at their level, like you were saying, Val, is like they were going to learn, and learning and getting better at what they were doing was going to keep them safe and healthy. And then like there was bigger challenge. Like I showed Tracy a video of like maybe a video of like a bunch of Iraqi army guys doing jumping jacks and like having to teach them PT when like we didn't even speak the same language, and holy shit what a challenge. And like but like these guys have literally like left their homes to come live with you on a base because they want to like make things right in their country. They've sacrificed everything. So it's like, yeah, you've got to meet them on their level. They're probably not ready to do fucking like the most intense physical training in the world, so jumping jacks is like where we start. But that's where we're starting. So you meet them at their level and you're patient with them and you develop them into a fighting force. And like not every soldier I got was ready to fucking go to the top levels, and you just be patient. You work with them, and there's days where you learn to push them, push them, push them, and you read them mentally. It's like, and you can sit there and Tayler, like you were saying, like you can put your foot in their ass and be like, listen, motherfucker, you did this same road march in 3 hours last week. Why the fuck is it taking you so long? We got shit to do. You have to get ready. And there's other days where like you do that and they'll just fucking quit. They'll just drop down and they don't want to do it anymore. You got to learn how to read those types of people. And I think that's really where even before becoming a coach, I learned like those patient pieces. And then becoming a coach and actually having that title and like wanting to develop groups, and then you throw in that little asterisk of like making it a business. Obviously, it becomes more of a a concern when you're trying to actually like make people want to like you for the business aspect. Because I've openly always said I'm shitty at business, so need to be somewhat empathetic as a coach. But um, to round out, there's been a lot of good chats. I really like this conversation. I wanted to kind of round out. We hinted on it with the cell phone thing, Taylor, so I'm glad we're gonna go full bore there. But I wanted to just kind of talk about like a faux pas. And again, Val, I'm going to be very curious about you and the environments you coach with all the younger athletes, especially with the what NIL now, right? NIL is the letters for like they can do sponsorships and stuff like that. Amanda works with athletes that are doing that. Self plug Kilo and Co. Right? But cell phones, guys. All right, we talked earlier about like athletes self comparing. Right, we talked about that generation where athletes are self comparing. We all know we're all wise enough to where athletes are not always having these great days, but they continue to either let it disturb their training because they're sitting there scrolling while they should be training and they're not managing their rest time, or they're comparing themselves upon others that and comparisons that don't even make sense. Like they're comparing against people that are in other weight classes, fuck other countries, athletes that have been lifting since they were 9 years old, and or like they're worried about some girl that just started 6 months ago or some boy that just started 6 months ago, and oh my god, they're at my numbers and they're so much younger than me. Or athletes on like maybe on your teams, Val, and they know an incoming freshman's coming and they're like, fuck, they're gonna take my spot and stuff like that, and they're obsessing with it. How are we managing that? Because it's like it is a free world. You can't sit there and like you can tell them maybe to not to pay that much attention to their phone or to be off their phone, but you know the second they're leaving the fucking place, they're on it. So how are we, and this is what I kind of want to end on, is like what advice are we giving out, or how are we advising our athletes to maybe not be so self-obsessive about posting and or managing their I don't want to call it like reflection time, because they're not self-reflecting, they're like absorbing what everyone else is doing. How are we kind of managing that with our athletes in the facilities?
My least favorite thing to deal with on this topic is when I have my athletes come to me with videos of Russian lifters or Bulgarian lifters or Chinese lifters and being like, look at that, look what he's doing at the top of his pole, or look how he's setting up. Like, why can't I do that? I've been wanting to set up like that, or I've been wanting a dynamic start, or, I do this at the top of my lifts because it feels like I have more power, blah, blah, blah. My least favorite thing to deal with. And then I have to sit there and basically explain to that lifter um, why this athlete trains how they do and why you have to train and lift how I'm telling you. So at the end of the day, for some of them, it's just about education, right? This is his body proportions. This is how he trains. This is your body proportions. This is how you train. Elite level, beginner level, not really relevant right now. But I think for some of them, once I explain a little bit more, they're able to watch some of those videos of high level lifters with a little bit more of an educated eye, or a critical eye, if you will. Yeah, that's my answer to that. It's very, that happens to me frequently with my male athletes. So yeah,
Always the males.
yeah.
Val or Taylor?
Well, my kids aren't allowed to have a cell phone in the weight room, so that's good. So there is no
That's a
filming.
beautiful
Yeah,
thing.
Amazing.
yeah. So
Beautiful
yeah,
And you can
thing.
do that
they
at the
I
university
could do
level,
it.
so that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
amazing.
that's like the hard oval comes out, right? When I always tell them like when I go over the lift, so when we usually break it down as a team until we come back and we break it down as a team, I don't want TikTok dances. I need you guys to come in and like really lock in for 40 minutes or an hour, or however long that training session is, because you have 23 hours left in your day to screw up everything else that we just did here. So I need you to lock in and at least get the training dose of whatever it is that we're working on, whether it's a run or a lift or whatnot. So that helps, like in the moment, I guess, is that we just don't have phones allowed. And then I would say in the college world, now I am missing this probably a little bit because I think all these they're smart kids, right? So they all have like private like accounts that they use that they'll post like more daily things on, and then they have like their athlete one, which is like
Yeah.
what I follow. So honestly, they don't really post much on their athlete stuff, if I'm being honest. But I do think that things that get in the way with them are like TikTok trends. So like for example, we were in our, I call it like our active recovery, our GPP for lack of better terms, after we get done with season, there's a period of time that we want them to kind of rejuvenate. Like I tell them they can come in. Taylor, as you know, is a soccer athlete. They still want to have a little bit of fitness, but like, hey, can we not run? Can we row instead? Can we? But they're all like, Val, I got to do the Stairmaster, and I'm like, why?
Oh, yeah.
And then there was a TikTok trend about like getting a fat bet and doing or something like that. I haven't seen it. Like I have no idea what it is. So they'll come to me with like things like, I've seen this on TikTok to get you fitter, stronger, or have you heard of, and they'll show me funny things or things. And sometimes they're like actually serious that they think that that's going to work. So it goes back to what you said, Tracy, educating them on like, that's not the best thing ever. I always like link up with my coaches too. So, hey coach, if we're preaching, I want to make sure that we're all preaching the same message. So we'll get with our staff, whoever that is. So our athletic trainer, our head coach, and we all want to make sure that we're on the same page with whatever it is we're trying to do with them, so that they're hearing the messaging across multiple people and not just from me. But I would say it almost because of TikTok, sometimes they like lack focus when like maybe like an hour before you're going to compete, put the phone down, right? You need to be able to like turn off the outside noise. And I think that's what our athletes struggle with the most. And it could be phone or social media related. It can also be life related. They have a really hard time sometimes just focusing on what they have to do in that moment, whether it be practice, whether it be the lift, whether it be conditioning. And then that impacts their training or that game so much. When if they could just put their phone down and like maybe play some music or meditate or positive mental imagery, like whatever it is that you have to do to prepare yourself, if they could just do a better job doing that. So we actually try to instate that with our teams. And same thing, that kind of comes from our coach and our performance team, our sports psychologist. Like we all kind of collaborate together on like, what are some ways that we can do this without being complete jerks, but like educating them on like putting it away, get into a space that you can shut it all down and focus on the task at hand and allow yourself to be the athlete you are, and not let all these things interject with it. But because
that's why.
yeah,
Sorry, not to interrupt.
no,
No, I was like, that's why I wish we could go back to the old school method of just having training logs and training journals, because our athletes use a freaking app for their programming. So it's like we can't take their phones away. And every time they're on their phone, it's like, well, they could be looking at their programming or inputting something, but 9 times out of 10, they're on social media, or they're looking back at their videos that they just filmed. And it is a very toxic loop that they have going on with that.
yeah.
I was gonna say it's hard for us because, like, I mean, I know Sean has switched to I think most weightlifting coaches now, generally, switched to that Train Heroic or True Coach or something to that effect, and that is hard because I would love to turn this phone off and not have it for 2 hours, but it's kind of like I can write it down in a journal, but then I still have to go back and put it back in my log because Sean needs to see that. So I have this like I do it for a week and then I get super frustrated and I'm like, I don't like literally. I'm in my office right now, and there's a stack of journals for my first like 5 years of training, 6 years of training on top of my bookcase. I actually found it the other day, and I was like, "This was so nice." And I was like, "Can't do this anymore," because you'd come in right, or you had a spreadsheet, you have to write it down. But that's always hard then too. Like, with that, or like getting video film. Like I work with Onyx, and if I'm wearing my belt, I need to get something with that because like I want to make sure that they see that I'm appreciative of their sponsorship and that I do use the product all the time. So like I need not need like to breathe, but like I need that to have that. So it'd be nice to turn my phone off and not have it, but that's kind of like the nature of the beast now. So it is what it is, I guess.
It would be cool if our athletes would be more disciplined and just sit there and be like, listen, the only tabs you're allowed to have open, basically your timer or your Train Heroic, and that's it. You can't have any other tabs open, but
I will say, I don't know if Matt does that or you, Tracy, like, if Sean sees, especially like those of us who are a little bit more serious, if he sees one of us like on our phone too long, he's like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing? It's time to lift." Like, what are you doing? And like at the time I get frustrated because I'm an adult, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Like you caught me.
I say that all the time, and I never fucking feel bad because literally they're like, to just say it straight, they're paying me to help them improve at the sport, so I don't feel bad. I'll sit there. There's a fucking unicorn moment, is what I call it. Tracy sees me call it out all the time, where we have fucking 17 athletes and they're all magically resting at the same fucking time.
Yeah,
like a fucking leprechaun just walked across the fucking gym or something.
Yeah,
and it's like, You all are fucking not paying attention to your rest because it is physically impossible for 17 motherfuckers to actually be on the same rest cycle while there's 2 people to a fucking platform.
Yeah.
You're distracted and not managing your rest. Please
But
get on the
also,
fucking page.
Also, if you think of the average attention span of this generation, like they're constantly looking to distract themselves, Like, so they've got 90-second, 2-minute rest period between sets, and they're just looking for distraction in between. And even our athletes at the back at meets, some of them say they can't even function well at a meet unless they distract themselves from what's going on. And it's like, have you ever actually tried just sitting there and completely dialing in with no distractions? Have you ever even done that in a training session? 9 out of 10 of them would say no, because the distraction, I don't know, helps their mental state somehow, or they're so dependent on it that they haven't even spent a single training session completely distraction free, completely dialed in. They've never even tried it,
Yeah.
So
that's why
it would be a unique experiment.
That's why I go full bore at the meet and I just trade Bitcoin while I fucking do the meet. I just don't I just do the polar opposite.
Well, think about the old school gyms that you couldn't have music on, and there
Yeah.
was no there used to be that I would love. Oh god, I told Sean, I was like, we should start doing this one day a week where we have no music, remove the iPad from the gym.
Dude, they lose their
watch how many people show up to those sessions.
Dude,
though.
lose
Trust
their
me.
minds. They lose their minds because they can't
they don't understand. Sometimes you don't need headphones. That you need to hear the bar, because sometimes you hear the bar and that audible cue teaches you something. Because you're gonna hear it meets because
let's go for another hour. Now we're getting good. This is good.
I mean, we can do this another time because I have a whole.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I've me and my 15 years of experience need to pop up in here and drop some knowledge. Old ass.
I like what you said about being able to hear the bar though, and at meets,
Well, Val, what's your take on it? Because I know fucking college strength rooms, those shits, they get fucking hype. You got coaches screaming, you got weights, you got all that shit.
Well, it's just me because it's just me. And guess what? My girls, they love it. And if they complain about the music, I turn country on and I don't care.
That's awful.
What? That's awful.
Yeah.
So no, wait, what kind of country?
Hey, and guess
country
what?
They 2000s.
They can't quit though, because it's a mandated team event. So it doesn't matter.
Shit.
So if they come in and they're all complaining about it, I'll either turn Christmas music or country, or I'll turn it off and I'll say, get over it.
Oh my God.
You lost your privilege.
Val, you're toxic.
I love
it. That would be mental torture for him.
I hate country and I fucking hate Christmas music. I can't
you know I love both, so get over it. I don't care.
Don't go in her weight room.
No shit.
Don't fuck with her.
My athletes actually, they all love, I would say this group, because it changes every year, right? Every group has a preference.
Yeah.
I would say this group is a lot more on the country side, but they either like it or they hate it. So
Thanks, Beyonce.
Yeah, so I switch it. I'll put on what they want, but if the music thing though, as soon as they start complaining about it, I'll either turn it off or I'll turn on what I want. So I'm get over it. Just zip it. It doesn't matter. It's the weight. Yeah, the music doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you need to come in and put the work in. And if you're so overly concerned with the music, you got bigger fish to fry than you coming in here to weight train.
That right there. And I used to, Tracy and Val, you'll appreciate this as parents, and I'm sure Tayler, you'll recognize the song, but they would bitch about the music. And since Oakley was younger, he had a little Oakley playlist, and I would just put on fucking Baby Shark.
Yep. Good.
Or I'm a Gummy Bear or something like that.
Yep, that was the other one.
Yeah.
I've done that before with Georgia. I put on Disney, whatever, but
Disney.
I quickly stop bitching about the music.
100%. That every time I threaten that, no one ever complains about it. I also think too, sometimes we train with lots of groups, and because I'm on the Olympic side, we'll have I'll have soccer, there might be swim, there might be baseball. So at the end of the day, whoever was in there first, their coach or even it's just playing in the weight room, the usually the golden rule is you just don't change it. So unless somebody leaves, right? I'll respect that coach with whatever they put on. We just have to have it clean. So as long as it's clean music, I don't care. But as soon as they start complaining about it, I'll either take it away which we've done lifts with no music before.
Yeah. That's outstanding. I love it. I can't wait.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I
Well,
know
guys,
it's different in the business world, but yeah, that is
no,
like
fuck it, I
I
don't
would
care.
think
On that
I
front,
love
I
it.
will stand my
Yeah.
ground.
But Matt, I think I've 100% lifted at 4 star without music before.
Yeah, every now and
Yeah,
then, I do it every now and then. I just like
because I feel
let's
like
just
sometimes as
lift,
a
guys.
coach,
Let's just
your brain it
yeah.
needs a break. Like it's just all day. And I always tell them I'm like, because my throwers like they like a little bit more like heavy rock, and if it's been on for 6 hours because football left it on, I have to change it. Like
Mhm.
I'll tell them I'm like, you can pick whatever else you want. I don't care. Like just pick something besides what's on right now because I'm
Save
gonna lose
me.
my mind. Unless they're lifting like above 90%, then I'll keep it on or whatever they need.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I knew this was gonna be a good episode. I hope everyone listening really enjoys it. Ladies, where can they find you? Anyone listening, for all 40 maybe people that listen to the Tough Lift podcast, if they are interested in following your exciting lives and lifting careers and or coaching careers, where could they find you? Tayler, we'll start with you. Where could they find you?
Ooh, I am Harris, Tayler. So Harris Taylor on Instagram. I do not do TikTok because I am refused.
What would it
You know,
take to have you do a TikTok trend dance?
That's good.
I
Look
would.
at Haley and me. I feel like she would appreciate it.
I don't. No, no TikTok.
Haley goes 6 for 6 at the next meet. Are you doing a TikTok dance?
No,
Damn.
no.
No,
All
Absolutely
right.
no.
not. I am not under peer pressure anymore. You can also find my email address on the USAW weightlifting site under the board of directors if you need to email me for something with your athlete concerns with weightlifting.
Excellent. Thank you. Val, next.
Uh, Actually, I don't even know what my Instagram handle is. It's
I
I want to
love
know
that.
because
Wow. I
I don't
love
know what
that.
it is. I feel like I at Valerie, Georgia.
There you
Sorry.
go.
I
At
want to follow
Valerie,
you.
Georgia.
Good.
Yeah. And I think it's the same for Twitter or something, but I feel like those are the two that I have. I made a TikTok because my sisters kept sending videos to watch, and eventually it made me
Oh,
download it
Amanda
because
did that shit to me too. I got forced into it.
yep. So I have one and I've made like two and I go on it like once a month. So I'm not good at it. And mostly when at night when I'm like bored and I can't fall asleep, so I'll scroll that. It's very bad. Don't listen. Athletes don't do
Don't
that.
listen
But
to this.
yeah, don't
Don't do
Don't
do
do
that.
the
that.
blue screen before bed. Don't do
Yeah.
that. It's
Valerie,
very
Georgia.
bad.
Yeah.
All right. And
Oh,
Tracy.
nice. My Instagram, which I spend way too much time on, is tracy.chase.7. There's no E in Tracy. He loves to spell my name wrong with an E just to fuck with me. I do have a TikTok, but I usually can't be bothered with it. For a while, I was just trying to post like accessory videos, warm-ups, stuff like that, some funny content, but I just got so drained from it and I haven't been on there in a minute. I would like to get back to posting on it because it's nice when I need to send an athlete an accessory video or something. I could just have it there and I just, send that. And it gets us a little bit of exposure too as a gym and as coaches. But yeah, I'm not on it that much. That one is at Coach Tracy with like 2 Y's or something like that.
We can
Yeah.
add fucking other letters, other vowels, but not.
Not the
Not
E.
an E.
There's no E. You know what? That's like spelling Taylor's wrong or Taylor's name wrong. Like I'm sure she gets that all the time and she probably hates it.
You guys are
Like probably
barking-
Taylor with an O or
You guys are
something instead of
barking
an
up the
E.
tree.
My coworkers do it. It's in my email and they do it. And I'm like,
You're barking up
HR
the
did
tree
the other
of
day
a
and I was
man
like,
that's been called Adam his whole life, okay?
Good. He has my name saved in his
so
phone with an
indifferent.
E in it. He has it saved in there with the wrong, and he has his wife's name in there under her maiden name still.
I am so indifferent. I threatened Amanda with naming Oakley Adam, so he was just Adam check, and we could just break the curse. We break the curse. All right.
Oh my gosh,
This is
what
a
did
great
Amanda
episode.
say?
Thank you,
Oh, I
all
can't.
those that listened. If you have any questions, reach out to them. They are vastly experienced in all their realms. And we will probably do another episode, I think. We started to get moving there, so that was a good groove. And beyond that, have a good day, and thank you guys for your time, as always. Have a good
thanks,
day.
y'all.
Thanks, guys. It was fun chatting with
Yes.
you.
Bye.
Bye.